Hi, and welcome to the second recording for Research and Information Skills. For this particular session or recording, I'd like you to get the PowerPoint presentation up either in Milo or if you've downloaded it up on your notebook or PC, and go through it with me if you could. I won't be going through every slide. I'll just indicate what I consider to be the most important things that you need to take in for that particular week, and obviously this weekend being the first week. The first thing I'd like to at least have you aware of is slide 3, which discusses the idea of Milo and why Milo is important. For me personally, I think you should be logging onto Milo at least every week, maybe several times a week. If you've missed any material, I guess Milo is the repository for all the information for any particular unit you're studying. So if you do fall a little bit behind, which I hope you don't, because it's difficult to recover, then please, like I said, go through Milo, navigate your way to all the materials that you may have missed, and then obviously attempt to catch up. The other thing is, and I think perhaps is the most important thing on Milo, is the fact that you have discussion boards. Now within those discussion boards you have the possibility of discussing issues with other students, obviously doing activities, and needless to say, you can share information with them, as I've indicated on the slide. But the key thing is that Milo, as far as I'm concerned, is the point of all your studies during any week. And like I said, just simply keep your eye on what's being posted there, because there is inevitably indications or information or work that you'll have to complete, or at least that you should be aware of. So Milo, keep it in mind. On slide 5, I indicate several books that are perhaps, in terms of recommended reading, are worth purchasing. The first one that I've indicated is How to Write Better Essays by Greetham. It's a second edition. As far as I'm concerned, this book would be a reference throughout your studies, so you could use it across the many years you're at UTAS. And it's a constant reference that you can go back to if you're having difficulties with certain aspects or at a certain stage of writing, for instance. The other readings, which is the other reading, I should say, is the Study Skills Handbook by Stella Cottrell. This is perhaps a lot more accessible as a text, but I personally don't feel it's necessarily as well honed, perhaps, as Greetham's text. By all means, like I said, have a look at it. The 4th edition, which is again, I think, is an improvement on the 3rd edition, is worth getting. It would be a constant reference. It covers a lot of the aspects of general study skills across the university. I think personally that the fact that Greetham concentrates on essays is both a limiting factor but also a positive, in the sense that essays are something that you'll be doing a lot of throughout your university career. And the sooner you begin to understand how an essay is constructed and how an argument is put together, etc., the sooner you'll get on in university and start getting the results that you feel you should be achieving. Anyway, both books are kind of worth a look. You're looking at least $30 to $40 for each one. I would only get one of them, but I'll leave that up to your judgment. Now, the most important aspect of today's lecture is to provide you guys with a rationale about how and why this unit might actually help you to get through university and how it might help you succeed. And I start that process in slide 6. Now, it's obvious, as I indicate in slide 7, that information is everywhere, and it might be worth you guys stopping and pausing for a second to work out where you get most of your information from. I think any one of those sources, and I guess for me the most likely sources for a lot of people, depending on your age, is through the internet. But information can come from a range of sources, and those sources are important for a whole range of reasons, i.e. because they give you some indication of authority or lack of authority, but also volume. For instance, if you look at the World Wide Web, the information, certainly from my perspective, has reached saturation point. You can almost get information on anything, and also you can get a video that's connected with that. You might get some sort of soundtrack that's connected with that. Anyway, there's a whole dearth of information out there. How we then scrutinise that is the big question. and how we can actually, to me, limit the amount of information we have that's useful, and there's the key word, that's useful to our everyday use. It's all well and good to know a lot of things about a lot of stuff about a lot of things, but whether you're actually truly knowledgeable, that's another thing, but we'll get to that later on in the unit. The key thing about information is it's the basis of all our decision making, and as is indicated in the video, and I'll let you watch the video and make your own decisions, I follow the viewing of the video because I don't want to necessarily hamstring your interpretation of the video. Now, what I would like you to do when you're watching the video is only watch it to literally 1 minute 34. So stop at 1 minute 34 and have a think, and then consider the actual questions that I've posed on slide 9. Now, in essence, the questions are more or less kind of indicating, okay, what can we take from these videos, these news feeds or grabs that we see in the video? It also begins to, I hope, generate some questions for you about what you might think in terms of seeing a news report like that. And as far as I'm concerned, like I said, it's fairly obvious what the intended meaning was, despite the fact that it was dated and despite the fact that the Howard government got themselves into quite a lot of trouble, and it was well known why and how they got into that trouble. Now, on slide 10 we look at, and I had hoped, like I said, and what I'll be doing in class is that there'll be a discussion between two people. Now, in this case, obviously you can't discuss it, but I'd like you to consider the questions nonetheless. So those questions, so why is it important to consider where information comes from, how information is presented, what opinions can we take from the video, and maybe what are the impressions that we get from, and also about, does it change our opinions for long if we do see something? Can it be corrected quickly? And I'm interested in this because they say that first impressions matter, and it does matter. So what's your impression if you just saw those video grabs, or news grabs, I should say? Sorry. Anyway, have a think, and like I said, consider those things. And to me, I'm hoping that this can be generalised in a much broader sense, that you might be able to see, okay, I watched, maybe if you watch the news each evening, or listen to the news on the radio, what is it that you're being told, and what does it actually mean? And perhaps even more unsettling, how is it actually informing your opinions? Now, the logical extension of getting information and possibly being misled in some ways is that we ultimately, as I indicate on slide 11, we need accurate decision making. Obviously is determined by how accurate the information we have, and if we actually don't have accurate information, and I think often we don't have the full picture, the bigger question would be, can we ever have the full picture of a particular situation? Even in our own lives, sometimes it's difficult to work out how things happen and why they happen, and we're left sort of scratching our head in the sense that we don't understand them. But anyway, the point being, accurate decision making needs accurate information, and it's about how we find accurate information, and that really is literally the bottom line the bottom line for this unit is to work out that very process. Anyway, I've put in I guess another small grab. It's, if you look at slide 12, I indicate there that it took 1760 years for the knowledge that was known, in 250 AD to double. Currently it is estimated that information doubles every 4 years. Now, if you look at that, just literally at face value, you might consider that to be almost reasonable given the time periods that we're talking about. However, like I said, if you think about it more strongly, more critically, and as I've indicated in slide 13, suddenly you're asking questions like, okay, how could that have ever been calculated? How can this ever be verified to be true? And those sorts of questions, as simple as that, as asking for verification for the facts, if there are any facts, but trying to work out exactly or ascertain exactly how someone's come to an opinion. What is it based on? Is it just their opinion? Is it subjective? Or is it far more objective? These are the kind of things that we deal with in academia. And obviously for you guys as students, you have information coming in every day through your personal lives, obviously now through study, and through your professional lives. In any capacity that you work, you have information coming in. And somehow you have to sift that information out every day. For me personally, sometimes it's just easier almost to deflect incoming information, in the sense that what's relevant to a particular context I'm quite happy to deal with and negotiate. However, that quickly changes and shifts when I'm in a different context. So those three domains that I'm looking at, and you are hopefully on that PowerPoint, are all quite different in terms of the information that is actually that I'm not only that I'm taking in, but also that I'm imparting. And that's I guess a key difference, because it's part of my job. Anyway, I've indicated on slide 15 that you have to know how to find, evaluate and manage information, and that it's a crucial skill for success at university. That to me is the raison d'etre for this particular unit, that you have to be able to do those things and do them well, and that you'll make a much more efficient use of your time at university. And obviously as a new student you encounter a whole range of new sorts of information, and as I indicate on slide 16, you've got unit outlines to deal with, which again, hopefully you've read the unit outline for research and information skills. You've got readings and other material and content that we give you, and the big one, which is the assignments, which is no doubt the things that most of you are probably thinking about already, possibly even concerned about, which I would hope you're not. That these are the types of things you're going to have to grapple with. There's a whole lot of new information in different spheres just at university, just doing one thing. Some of these things will be easier than others. You'll quickly realise that maybe you can not necessarily ignore, but you can actually briefly go over certain things and not others. Anyway, if you don't tackle these different spheres of information, then obviously it's going to be difficult to cope. It's a tough time. So the sooner you start to get your head around this stuff, the better, the quicker. And obviously, as I indicate in slide 18, there's reasons why you need to get your head around it quite quickly. Now, what are you going to need to do? On slide 19, I've said that you have to know what information is needed, know how to find it, evaluate the information, use it effectively in your study, and obviously in your assignments. And I'm loath to actually keep indicating that all of this has to somehow be spearheaded towards just assignments. I don't believe that. I want to believe that information has its value within has value within itself, that somehow, like I said, that will enrich your life in a way that without it you wouldn't have had, even if it just ends up, making the way you think, so your consciousness and your thought, cognition, etc. is different or changed. That obviously it has to build your knowledge in some form or other, and build on your existing knowledge. And I guess for me it's about coming up with new ideas or new ways, new angles of dealing with things, and sometimes this can be a little bit unsettling. It's as simple as that. You start to think differently about your surroundings and about yourself, and it can cause all sorts of complications. I've certainly experienced that in over time. Even just changing my status to a student, people react differently to you, and it forces you to think differently about yourself and about your situation. Now, for me, slide 20, which I obviously underline with a cartoon, and you'll get many of these different cartoons and graphics, etc. I suppose I should indicate here that for me, 1,000 words in a picture, and that can be in any sort of picture. I like illustrations, I like patterns, I like art, and perhaps had my life been slightly different, had my study practices been slightly different, maybe I would have ended up as an art teacher. Who knows? But anyway, you'll see many of these graphics surface throughout my slides, and I have to confess that PowerPoints by themselves are fairly dull, and I'd rather look at a pretty picture sometimes and read the information on there, particularly when someone's talking about the information already. But anyway, that's my excuse for putting a whole range of different graphics on these particular PowerPoints. But anyway, getting back to the point, for you to have good information skills means you can find information quickly and easily. You know what information is useful, and that's a key word, like I said earlier, that you use it to complete assignments and exams, but also a broader sense you change yourself. And there's the key, that you create new understanding and knowledge. And these not only benefit you, but benefit other people, because you enlighten them with your newfound knowledge and understanding. There's further information there about the fact that you're going to act ethically, and I'll talk more about that when we go along, because I think this is an important thing around plagiarism and obviously respect and acknowledgement for the people you get information from, so in other words your sources. My hope is that, like I said, you'll incorporate all these skills in your work progressively, because it's not going to happen overnight. Some of you will already have quite reasonable research and information skills, others won't. Some can build on, but I don't think there's anyone who comes to university, not for the first time anyway, who doesn't have some areas to build on. In other words, that they can somehow expand their existing knowledge or research skills. And that, to me, again, is a fairly important part of this kind of process of this unit. And that's where I guess I, for me, feel almost vindicated that the unit has not only a purpose but true objectives that can help all the students who come here. Anyway, the types of resources that you'll find and sources, obviously, that you'll find at university obviously come in both physical and electronic sources and resources. These, and I won't go through the lists, I mean you can have a look on slides 25 and 26. These can be found obviously through the UTAS library website, and for me, why would you go anywhere else looking for information other than if you've got personal interest or you've got more time on your hands, or a lot of time on your hands? Why would you go further than the UTAS library? And you'll find very quickly. Hi, sorry about the interruption. I forgot to take the phone off the hook. Anyway, apologies. Okay, now you'll see on the PowerPoint that on slide 29 I have the word workshop. Now, in terms of workshopping, what we do on campus is we spend the second half of the lecture, we spend the first hour going through theory perhaps and looking at a range of things, usually doing some activities, and then the second hour we look at doing some sort of activity. So rather than just it being theory based, which I don't believe is the right way to conduct this unit, we spend the second hour, much like a tutorial, in discussion about different things. Now the activity for this week is looking at, okay, what is the difference between information and knowledge? And there's obviously a substantial, significant difference. I've used mosquitoes as the basis for students to begin to actually collect a range of information about mosquitoes. And as was indicated in slide 31, that information leads to us knowing about, so if we know something, then we might act in certain ways. So the difference between information and knowledge is that we can have rather a huge amount of information, and I used the example to one of my friends recently about skateboarding. In other words, I can know a whole range of things about skateboarding but not actually know how to do it. However, if I know certain things about skateboarding, I may act in certain ways. I may be more fairly cautious about how I tackle skateboarding if I was going to be a skateboarder, for instance. Alternatively, and in this case mosquitoes, looking at mosquitoes, that we may have and act in certain ways. So with certain mosquitoes we know that obviously their bites are itchy, they may become infected through that itching. Bites may lead to more serious illnesses and infections, which obviously is far more serious. So our reaction may be that we use repellents or nets, that we obviously spray and try and kill or reduce the numbers of mosquitoes themselves, and that we may not even go to countries where malaria is prevalent, for instance. So we can build up from information a pattern of knowledge, because knowledge really is just working out literally the patterns that are in information and what they indicate. So it's kind of like synthesizing information down to a point where we then can make actions, create decisions, and I guess have informed opinions. I indicate that there's obviously a pyramid that leads from facts that we might collect, and obviously that relates to how they're organised, and then we analyse those. There's a certain level of summary and synthesis, and then we can make decisions. And it's fairly indicative of the process in life generally. Much more whimsical is the graphic that I put on 33, which I start to allude to wisdom. What is wisdom? And then Lunig's picture on the last slide 34 is a kind of, for me, a grab on okay, we can have all this information at our fingertips. We can click any button and find information on almost any subject. And yet, does that make us knowledgeable? Does that bring us wisdom? And I'm not sure it does. I think really we have to live our knowledge through application to come to wisdom. In other words, we come to a broader sense. In other words, and I've indicated this to the other lecturers, that for me wisdom is about understanding what money, as an example, understanding what money might bring us, and in a broader sense that we can, I guess we might have a lot of knowledge about how to get money. We might get that money, but does it bring happiness? Probably not. It might go some way to bringing us a certain level of happiness, but wisely, someone has once said that money does not bring happiness. And why doesn't it bring happiness? And we work that out as we go along through our knowledge of money and the information we have about money. So we come to a much broader sense or understanding of what something is. Anyway, I'll let you decipher what Lunix is trying to indicate by the cartoon. I think it's quite profound. On a final note, I guess I have to obviously say thanks for just coming to do the unit. I look forward to teaching you across the semester. However, on a more practical level, something I didn't indicate in the assessments recording for this is that there are 3 assessment folders or modules in Milo that will have or be the repository for all the information regarding the individual assessments. So when you get when you're obviously close to a deadline and you need to get information about assessments, including the rubric, including any additional instructions or templates, etc., they will all be in the assessment folders. Anyway, have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks.